Here's a mindful man reading the last few chapters from Barnsley Boyhood, which I did get a bit confused with. So I may as well just go to the end, which is on Amazon KDP. The next morning, Tom left a note saying that he had taken Patch for a walk, and Josh had cereal for a change and wondered what to do with his day. It was a Sunday, the final day of the school holidays. The sun had come out maybe for the last time. Josh put on his trainers and grabbed an apple and set off for one last adventure. Once again he got to the crossroads. Left or right, he pondered, and he chose right and carried on down the lane for a few miles until he came to a little village. He threw his apple core into the hedgerows, and it wasn't litter, it was a treat for the first animal that found it. He bought a can of Coca-Cola from the corner shop and drank it, swilling it round his gums as it bubbled and frothed with a metallic taste. It was more like acid than a refreshment, he thought, and he wondered why it was so popular. Next time he would stick to water. He carried on for another mile just to see where he'd end up. He passed grand houses and picturesque cottages. This must be where the rich people live, he thought. The streets were deserted and he could hear laughing and shouting. So he decided to investigate. He was surprised to see people in bathing costumes and lounging around with towels around their waists. It was an outdoor swimming pool. The sunshine sparkled on the water invitingly. His shirt was drenched in sweat, and although he had no trunks, he thought he could get away with his boxer shorts. Josh slowly lowered himself into the cool water, and he hoped that it wasn't icy cold. To his relief, the water was warm. Oops, I just said it was cool. He immediately began swimming to the side. The pool was almost empty, and as he swam, he loved the feeling of the sunshine on his back. A girl swam towards him. She was about the same age as him, and she had long blonde hair, and he thought she looked pretty, like in an Alice in Wonderland way. She smiled at him and revealed lovely white teeth, and then she swam alongside him. He had never thought much of girls before, but she seemed pleasant. She surprised him by high-fiving him, and then she shouted out her name above the splashing water. It was Jane. She was anything but plain. She raced him to the end of the pool, sending water splashing into the air. He tried his best to keep up and kicked his legs with all of his might. He felt like a torpedo moving through the water. When Jane got to the end, she surprised him by turning and flipping under the water like a seal, then passing him, going in the opposite direction. He was impressed and tried to do the same with limited results. Length after length she swam, with Josh struggling to keep up behind her. It was fun but tiring, and soon his arms felt like they were being weighed down with heavy weights, and he was beginning to sink. She sat on the side of the pool and watched him struggle to finish. She was smiling and laughing, but not in a cruel way. Josh didn't want to laugh, as it would have zapped his remaining strength, and he would have sunk like a perforated submarine. "What took you so long?" she said happily, kicking her legs in the water. He gasped for breath. It was the longest he'd ever swam, and in truth he was only doing it to impress her. He'd never wanted to impress a girl before. She held out her hand and he shook it. She asked him lots of questions about where he lived and which school he went to. He didn't say much. He didn't know what to say. He wasn't uncomfortable. It was nice to have female company for a change. "I need a drink," she announced. "I'm so thirsty." "I could drink this pool," she said. She stood up, letting all of the water run down her body. She was lovely looking, thought Josh. So healthy. He thought how amazing it would be just to kiss her. This was a new thought to him. He'd never had these feelings before. He'd heard of the birds and the bees, but he was always too busy to think it would apply to him. They sat at a table and drank